Welcome to This Week in Lebanon Warriors Athletics here on LebanonWarriors.com and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. My name's Jason Griefer. As always, we're joined by Lebanon Athletic Director Keith Pantlin. Keith, good to have you back in. Let's jump right into it because we've got a lot to discuss here on this week's show. Let's start with the basketball teams. Let's start with the boys first, sitting right behind Turpin at the top of the league, but a big one coming up this Friday against Anderson. Anderson's right behind you in the loss column. They have 2 losses. You're currently sitting with 1 loss in the conference, and they're 9-2 overall, and they're coming on strong ever since Lebanon beat Anderson back in December there. Anderson's won 4 or 5 since then. But I want to talk about one of your players in particular who's really turned up his game in the last couple of weeks, and that's Zach Weber. 3 straight 20-point games. He's grabbed 43 rebounds in his last 4. He's among the league leaders in scoring and rebounding right now.
You stole my thunder.
Yeah, I know. I some of the stats there for you, but when he's going like this, when he especially gets turned up and seemingly taking his game to another level like he has the last couple of weeks, how much better is this team?
You know, I've been thoroughly impressed with Zach since meeting him. He actually showed up to some of their open gyms before the season, and I was kind of like, "Who's that kid?" And I learned about the fact that he's a Division I baseball pitcher. He's going to Ohio University. And that he didn't play basketball last year and kind of missed it and wanted to come back out. And sure enough, like you said, we're here in the middle of the year and he's found his groove and, 14 points, nearly 10 rebounds a game. He's a game changer for the squad and talking to the coaches, his attitude, his effort, the way he practices. Obviously the added rebounding helps, and something that may have been missed in the past, but huge part of the team along with others. I think they just mesh well all together, but maybe that component that they needed to kind of get over the hump. And now 12-2 and 8-1 in the conference in 6 straight games in the middle. We talked about the grinder of January, now backloading games because of COVID. They got a big stretch coming up and it's going to be very important that he's on top of his game for sure.
What does it say about him in particular? Like you said, he already has a Division I ride set up to pitch for the Bobcats out at Ohio University. The fact that he wanted to come back when he didn't have to, and you think about it, a lot of people would think, well, geez, he's risking a lot here potentially by coming to play on basketball. He could have just waited for baseball season, competed there, and then gone on to college there. What does that say about his competitive drive that he wanted to come back and come out for the team?
I think it was very mature of him because there's a lot of people that can be in your ear trying to talk you out of certain things or focusing on specializing in something. And for him to say, I kind of only get to do this once and I want to enjoy this journey with these guys that I played with, growing up, to come back out. Obviously he's athletic enough to not have skipped a beat. And, I think it's awesome. Great kid, great family, and we're glad to have him out there.
Over on the girls' side, you get a nice non-conference win on Monday against Sycamore. Of course, Kendall Foley, 22 points, just another night at the office for her. But before that, they beat Kings to bring the trophy back home, the Boomerang Bowl, which is a great name for a trophy. Did it on your birthday, by the way.
Happy belated birthday shout out there. That was cool.
There you go. Happy belated birthday to you. And so now they go back into league play. You've got a couple games coming up here: West Claremont, Walnut. And of course, looking for a little bit of revenge as Walnut got the better of you about 6 weeks ago. Your team's gone on a run since then. They're 9-1 since that stretch there. In your eyes, and from what you've heard from the coaches, what's been the biggest improvement from that first Walnut loss until this upcoming game in the rematch?
Well, I haven't been at every game, but I know they've won 6 in a row since falling at Loveland and they'll have the opportunity to play them again at home on February 3rd. Mm-hmm. I think that loss in particular, they still have an opportunity to capture the conference title, having Loveland having lost a game. So being that half game out, I think they remain really focused and, they're averaging most points in the conference at 59, which I thought was a pretty cool stat when I just looked. I think the next closest is only around 50. They're scoring the basketball. They're playing fun. They're a deep team. They play a lot of girls. And I think there's just that camaraderie there that they're on a mission. So I think it's just going to be fun. They got to take care of business these next couple of weeks. They get another opportunity at Walnut And then if they can get through those this stretch here, that game where they're hosting Loveland on February 3rd could be for all the marbles. So I think they're really focused on that. And coach is obviously trying to take it one game at a time, but they got a real shot here to make some noise down the stretch.
Yeah, Walnut Hills are a good team,
Yep.
certainly for sure. They beat you. They also beat Loveland, so
Yep.
it goes to show you that anybody can beat anybody on a given night. So it'd be a tall task there for your team there. Let's move on to wrestling and a big win against Springboro. Bring the Rock back home. And you look at the results, 8 wrestlers get wins, 5 do it via pin. This is a pretty big deal to win this against Springboro. So what kind of a springboard, for lack of a better phrase, can it be for the team to get a rivalry win like this, win the Rock back going forward like that? And then also, what is next for the team? Because we know the schedule seems to be kind of in flux.
Yeah, so they take a lot of pride in this event. The youth teams typically wrestle, then the junior high, then the JV, then the varsity. And it's kind of a big deal with Springboro. The programs are both really, really good. So it's kind of been a toss-up going back and forth annually. So they really look forward to that one. It was cool to get the win. In talking to Coach, the biggest thing this year is getting guys ready for the postseason and get some really tough wrestling under their belt. And so with the invitations and the traveling to tournaments and things kind of being out the window this year, they've had to get creative in finding ways to get these guys matches. So the Harrison duels early on, they battled some of the best, from Indiana and over here in the tri-state, and then went through the conference schedule, and we did really, really well in conference. And so they kind of got a bit of both sides of some success, and then also seeing that top-notch wrestling. And Coach is excited to now get back into some of the hard-nosed stuff here down the stretch to really prep them for the postseason. The schedule coming up, they have duels against Coleraine, Lakota East, Moeller, and LaSalle before we hit the ECCs and then into sectional. So they're about to gear up, and he doesn't want them going into too full of themselves into the postseason. They're about to go through a grinder here again and find out where they're at.
I see a lot of teams in a different area, in different sports, I should say, that as the postseason draws near, some teams will choose to kind of back down off of training and maybe try and spread some things out, and maybe not go as intensely, in practice or in training between games or matches or what have you. Are we seeing, is that happening with your team as far as practice goes? Are they backing off a little bit to save themselves for the meets and then ultimately the postseason?
Yeah, that could be it. I mean, I trust Coach's judgment as to how he figured this out. It's probably in the best interest of their formula and how they do things. I think some other sports where, like for instance, our boys basketball get 4 games that last week of the season could be detrimental, from a sport like that, playing multiple games in a week. But, as we talked about, man, it's just a unique year, and you want to try to do what you can, but you also want the kids to get competitions in and be playing. So, weighing that stuff's been pretty interesting, and talking to the different teams. You're right. There's a different approach based on where you are in your season and what you want to get accomplished as we near the end of the regular seasons here.
One of the sports we do hear that often about towards the end of the regular season, tapering down, and that's the swim teams. They were in action at the ECC championships over the weekend. We'll start with the boys first. Finished 7th in their first year in the ECC. They're moving in to the new league there. How did that compare with the expectations going into the championship?
I think Coach Davis was happy. It was an interesting, I thought they did a great job running the event. Kudos to the 3 venues of the ECC, and they kind of did a simulcast and managed, they had a couple schools at each pool, and then they somehow got live scoring and all this stuff. I mean, it was really well done. But our kids had a great time, brought a lot of energy. Our coaches were happy. I enjoyed watching them compete. I know Cole Blank was our swimmer of the match, and he had a great performance Saturday.
Over on the girls' side, they finished 4th overall as a team, but we want to talk about Katie Fisher here. She was named the ECC Co-Swimmer of the Year. She wins the 200 IM and the 100 breaststroke, so really strong performances there for her, and really all season long, really capping just a really fine season she's had in total. What have the coaches said about her growth as the season has gone along? And how can she take the performance from the ECCs and maybe use that as a springboard for herself into the postseason, try to make a run maybe all the way to state?
Yeah, absolutely. And she's only a sophomore. That's the coolest part that I think the coaches are excited about, that her work ethic and her interest in the sport coupled with just being a sophomore is a great recipe for continued success for the program. But she had a great performance on Saturday, and she has a really cool nickname. They call her K-Fish. So as a swimmer, Katie Fisher, I thought that was pretty cool when I heard about that. So, but loved watching them compete, and she did a great job.
And yeah, two individual event wins there at the ECCs, and the top of the league on both sides is very, very good. So all the more impressive. And as you said, being so young, she's just a sophomore, so you can only imagine the next couple of years where her development can go for sure. Let's move on. Let's jump out of the pool. Let's jump over to the talk about your academic quiz team here. Alternated wins and losses through the first 8. And now you get a big one here. You get Little Miami. They're 8-0 on the season. We talked a little bit about last week about the long-standing excellence of this Little Miami academic quiz team and how good they've been over the years. And of course, now both yourself and Little Miami now in the ECC. How is your team going about training this week? Are they preparing in any different way? Are they training at a higher level, knowing that Little Miami's coming in, or are they still at the point where it's midseason and we're just trying to better ourselves right now?
Yeah, I think that's it. And then I also think that as you're going to see different schools, you may have compared yourself strictly to GWalk schools or whatever competitions we did in the past, and seeing some of these like established programs where the academic quiz team may be a little bit more of an integral part of the school community. Where we want to go over here. So obviously I spent time at Little Miami, and Coach Maupin does a great job over there. I mean, it's a cool deal, the way they compete. They do it all year. They go to different tournaments. So just establishing that type of culture and excitement for the kids grows the program, grows the competitiveness. So I think it's sparking some encouragement for our program to say, well, what do we do to improve? So which is, it's pretty cool to see. So I think the future is bright for our program.
Let's jump into the bowling lanes, and we'll talk about the regular season, where we stand there in just a moment. But I want to recap the team's performances, both the boys and the girls, at the Cardinal Classic over the weekend. That's a pretty big deal there. I think 17 teams were there competing in this one. Let's start with the boys first. A qualified number 1, led by Cooper Cummings, who had a 219 average this past week. Wind up finishing 3rd, so pretty strong performance there for the boys. And on the girls' side, Hannah Rarick, I know we've talked about her here on the podcast before and how good she's been. Yeah, just all tournament team once again. The girls team finished the 2nd. Pretty good performances for both the boys and the girls in this tournament that brought in a lot of quality bowling programs, a really good litmus test going forward.
Yep, and then they have a lot of action-packed weeks coming up. Took some time off due to quarantines and things kind of around Christmas time. So a lot of bowling. It's hard for me to even keep up, but I do know tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm going over to watch them at Eastern Lanes take on West Claremont and get that shot. Both of them are in 2nd place to West Claremont in the ECC, both boys and girls. They went out there and battled them hard last week, but lost. But been circling that one on the calendar. I'm excited to see them perform tomorrow, and hopefully they can knock them off. But been great. They've had tremendous success this year, as I mentioned, both 2nd in the ECC. They'll make runs in the postseason, and they've done a great job.
Yeah, I was just about to transition to that the match with West Claremont for both the boys and the girls, because the league title is still well within your grasp. You got to find a way to take it over the top this time against West Claremont. Does it help? Can it help your teams knowing that they performed well in the Cardinal Classic, combined with the fact that they just saw West Claremont, less in the last couple of weeks? Combine those two together and be able to use some of the things they learned from each of those and get over the top and try and get some revenge?
I think that can generate some confidence. I also, and this is going to sound crazy, but I've learned a little bit more about bowling each year I've been doing this. I think the home lane matters, and oil patterns, and I'm not like I don't know it all, but I hear enough of them talking and watching it that there is some strategy to what goes on, and the home bowling alley is advantageous to be at. So they will perform better this week. I think it'll depend on whether West Claremont adapts or not.
Athletic directors are so
And this is
modest.
crazy. Yeah,
They keep the hands off. I'm not the experts. I leave it to the coaches, and then we're dropping oil patterns and
yeah,
being on the home lanes, how that plays a factor and all that. You folks lead on more. You folks know more than what you tend to lead on there. But that's a good thing. And keeping track of the programs for sure. As we're moving on here and winding down this week on the show, definitely want to talk about your competition cheer team. We kind of touched on them a little bit last week. They were heading off to a pretty prestigious tournament, the Cheer Max tournament, and they just go and win the whole thing. They were crowned grand champions. They finished in first in the game day portion of the meet there, and finished second in the performance section. Pretty darn good. Talk to us about it.
Well, it's the first year in the ECC, so competition cheer is factored into the all sports trophy, and so we're taking it on. There's a conference meet coming up. Our coaches, Connie and Bethany and Christy, do an unbelievable job. We have obviously the performance team and the game day team. First year for us, but a ton of excitement. They train hard. Tomorrow they have to do the virtual part of their ECC the video submission. So I'm going to check that out tomorrow afternoon. And then they compete in the ECC this weekend. So just a cool aspect of cheerleading. They do so much for the community, bring so much spirit. And now for us to then return the favor, cheer them on, and appreciate what they do and the skill that they have is a really cool deal. So I want to continue to pump them up, and we're just proud of everything they're doing. And obviously to go out and do something like that right away and bring home some banners to hang up at school is making it easy to get that support for them. So pretty cool, and we're just so proud of the program.
Yeah, that's an interesting point there that you make. A lot of folks don't necessarily think about the competition cheer side of a cheerleading program at a high school or college or whatever the case may be, because we're just so used to seeing them, on the sidelines at basketball or football or soccer, whatever the case may be, volleyball there. But to see the competition cheerleaders get that support back on the other, and when they're so used to giving it out, it's one of the more selfless sports you can compete in, because you're all about trying to make everybody else happy and get everybody else fired up. To see it come back to them, what's that like been for the cheerleaders and for the coaches to see so much support from the outside, wanting them to do well, as opposed to them kind of leading the cheers the other way around?
Well, the tough part is first of all, with COVID, and second of all, when they're in training. I don't know as much about bowling, but I'm learning about the competition cheer stuff. They don't let a lot of people see until it's like polished and ready to go.
Yeah.
So they have this competition coming up, and then we're going to get them to a basketball game, but we'll keep getting them out to perform more and more in their performances from the competitions out in front of our community and things. So we're still working on it, but there's ways to do it. But I think there's definitely a sense for them that they're a part of something, and going out and competing and being a team. So it's really cool.
And really cool is that grand champions at Cheer Max, first year in the ECC, and they got the ECC championships coming up on Sunday. So a very, very exciting time for the cheer squad. It really across the board here. I mean, this is a pretty darn good week, and I know to think about things when we reconvene here, any week that we're able to have full sports and no pauses or anything like that is a good week, and that's been the case for out at Lebanon as well. And so that's definitely a good thing here, and it allows us the opportunity to talk about some of these programs and the student athletes as well. Keith Pantling, certainly appreciate the time here today, and look forward to another good week a week from now.
Thanks for having me, and go Warriors.
That is Lebanon Athletic Director Keith Pantling joining us for This Week in Lebanon Warriors Athletics here on LebanonWarriors.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.